Ellie tries to mend her relationship with her husband Marcus after a brief encounter with an old friend David, only to find that David is more dangerous and unstable than she realized. Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a new Netflix original movie review, and today we're talking about Fatal Affair. Very excited to let you all know what I thought about this film and if you should check it out in this non-spoiler review. Before we dive into it, as you can see on the screen now, make sure you're following me on all my other social media accounts. If you're new to the channel, definitely subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of that new content. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, helps out the channel, but I also really appreciate it. And last but not least, if and when you've seen Fatal Affair, starring Nia Long and Omar Epps, let me know what you all thought about the film, the pros, the cons. Is this the type of genre you look out for and know what you're getting into? Let me know your pros and cons in the comments below. Let's have some fun conversations down there. So first and foremost, anticipation level for this film is pretty high, believe it or not. Growing up as a kid, obviously I grew up with Star Wars and, Jurassic Park, all that stuff that we're all accustomed to, but there's also a particular storytelling element, black stories, black creators that in the 90s and in the 2000s is where I grew up on, right? So I think of Nia Long, I think of, Boys in the Hood, Friday, Love Jones, I'm talking about Soul Food and also Omar Epps. We're talking about classic films like Juice, The Wood, Love and Basketball. These are like two people that I have come to love and adore and been big fans of them. So seeing them kind of come together for the third time in their career, I was actually looking forward to this film, even though, and this is the thing about this movie, Fatal Affair, not only has there been fatal attractions of the world and unfaithfuls of the world and many stories about, cheating and people being psychos and things of that nature, but there is a niche, there's a market for this. So in this review, I'm going to focus more on the positives. Again, I think of a film like DNI, 365 DNI. It's a film that knows what it is and it knows the audience is going out for. I might not necessarily be the target audience, but it knows what it's trying to do. It plays into its pros, it plays into its hand and knows exactly what it is, ladies and gentlemen. So let's start off with the positives. Nia Long and Omar Epps, again, grew up with these two actors, been a fan of theirs. I had and still have the biggest crush on Nia Long again. Love Jones, Friday, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Been a big fan of hers for a while. Again, she's a great actress, but she's also incredibly beautiful. And as this character, Ellie, who has another thing too about black storytellings, it shows her in a position where she has, number one, I don't know if you all watch Big Little Lies, but the house that they lived in is a rental house that many other productions have used, but this is the same house in Pretty Little Lies on HBO, which I don't know why that's coming into my mind now, but that's the exact same house. Just a little trivia, a little tidbit there for you all. But either way, it shows you a black successful family, right? You have the husband, Marcus, who's an architect. You have Ellie, who is a lawyer, who's opening up her own firm. It's always good to kind of show you, in some films, they show you the dad side in the picture. They're living off of welfare. So and this isn't just black community. This is minorities in general, with the way cinema kind of portrays minorities. So it's always good to kind of see that. But going into Ellie's character, again, she's successful, she's powerful, she's smart, she's intelligent, she's beautiful. And you see how this film kind of portrays Ellie and her family as, from the outside, you think everything is good and dandy and there's rainbows and everything's going good. But it kind of doesn't touch on it a lot, but it also shows you that you think someone's in a good relationship, but behind closed doors, as Ellie says to David in this film, she's been with her husband Marcus, and she wakes up every morning and thinks he's a complete stranger. So I kind of like the idea of showing that you can look good on the outside, but there's a lot of stuff, turmoil, some conflict, some things going on at home that you may not see. So I think that Nia Long, as Ellie, kind of portrayed that character that we all may know, right? We live in a social media time where people shows the best highlights of their lives, but what happens when that camera's not on, right? What happens when that phone is charging up on the charger? What's their life really like? So I like that they kind of give you a little bit of insight on that book. You could tell a book by more than its cover type of situation. And the performance by Nia Long, again, knowing what this movie is, and I grew up in a single family home with my mom and my grandmother who loved them some Lifetime, and I feel like at this point Netflix makes more Lifetime movies than Lifetime does, but neither here nor there. I've seen my fair share of Lifetime films, and this is far in between in regards to the performances were a lot more solid than I've seen in the past. I think of even a Netflix film, I think it was called Obsession, that I saw last year or maybe the year before, where it's a very similar storyline where you have this guy that's obsessive who is willing to do any and everything to be with this woman. So you know the level of acting and absurdity and the logical things that don't make sense that could take place in these genres. And I thought that this film and the performances, and particularly with Nia Long, in transition to Omar Epps, who plays David, who again, Omar Epps back in the day and still to this day is known as the good guy, right? You think of The Wood, you think of Love and Basketball, you think of, Juice. He's the hero. He's the guy that women want to be with, men want to be. So it's interesting to see him play this role where he's the bad guy in this film. Again, not giving away any spoilers, but if you've seen the trailer, you hear the tagline. He's obsessive. He has a personality that's very attached. He is willing to do anything and everything to be with Ellie. So I thought that he gave again, knowing the genre, some laughable moments that I think are meant to be like, this is the film where you're talking to yourself, right? Like, come on now, David's doing this, he got away with this. So this is the film that kind of gets into that idea of where you're sitting down watching and talking to yourself while watching this movie. Like, come on, Marcus, I know you had your injury, buddy, which I don't know why they put that in there, Marcus's whole injury, for those that have seen the film. And like, maybe it explains why towards the end, why he wasn't able to do certain things and get, again, no spoilers here whatsoever, but I like the performance by Omar Epps and the performance as a whole from the entire cast. Again, everyone knew what movie they were in, and that includes Courtney, the best friend. Everyone knew what they were going for, and I think that it hit the marks of what you are expected to see in this type of film. This isn't breaking new ground. This is a story we've seen 1,000 times, but I will say the performances were definitely above average. Some of you may not think so, but I think that the performance by our main cast was pretty solid. Getting into the negatives, again, this isn't a perfect film. It has its flaws. I mentioned the performances. There were some moments that I felt like the film played almost like commercials in a sense, where it was just like, we're just seeing her, Ellie running up the beach. We're seeing this kind of perfect relationship. Again, the idea that Marcus and Ellie off screen had issues, marital issues that we don't see on screen. So it's just like, wait, the whole idea of you sleeping with a stranger for 20 years, the marriage canceled. Again, they've been ready for 20 years. So there's a lot of off-screen stuff that we didn't see. And by the time the film takes place, they seem to be in a really good spot. So I'm just kind of thinking to myself, like, they should have showed maybe an argument here and there between the two, kind of showing that tension that may have been there in the past, but we don't see that in the screen. So it's almost just like, we all make bad decisions, and Ellie makes a decision to kind of open up the floodgates of an old relationship that she had with David in college, but you don't really see the marital issues where I thought would have played stronger into this film. Again, I had mentioned David's performance. There are some moments where there are a little over-the-topness. For most of the film, it's a pretty, grounded in reality film, but by the third act, especially the last 15 minutes, I'm looking at the clock, I'm like, this movie's gonna end like this, but it went to those levels where, again, the logic, the absurdity of these type of films definitely plays at its hand, where it gets like, come on. And I don't want to give it away, but those that seen the ending, you're just like, really? Really, this is how we're going to wrap this up. This is how things are going to play out. This is, you're going to send one cop. Again, I don't want to give too much away, but neither here nor there. Kind of finishing up this review, guys. This isn't a perfect film. This might not be the film for you, but I'm going to put my biases aside because I am a big Nia Long and Omar Epps fan. But the filmmaking, the movie doesn't have a lot of flair. It's not breaking new ground. The script is very predictable, as you may imagine, so I'm not going to fault the film of predictability because every other film in this genre does the exact same thing. So it's just like when we see an action film, a horror film, they have the certain tropes that you're expected to see. So I'm not going to fault the film there. But again, the direction of this film doesn't stand out to me. The direction of this is very bland, very generic. The acting is fine. Marcus here and there wasn't all that great. The daughter, I think her name was Brittany, she was okay. The friend Courtney was kind of over the top. So there were some performances that wasn't as strong. But do I recommend this film? Yes. If you're a fan of Nia Long, Omar Epps, check it out. And if you're a fan of this genre, I think you're going to love it. But if you haven't seen these type of Lifetime films, which again, I think Netflix is making more of these films than Lifetime itself, then you might not like this film. I wouldn't say you have to rush out and see this. But again, if you're a fan of the genre, these actors, give it a watch. But I'm going to put my biases aside. This is not the best film, guys. But I will give this, surprisingly, a 3 out of 5 because, again, I know where the bar is for this. I've seen so many of these movies. I know where the bar is, and this is definitely above the bar in my personal opinion, due to the performances and due to the playing to his tropes and not going too over the top until we get into that third act. So with that being said, I'm going to give Fatal Affair a 3 out of 5. Yes, a 3 out of 5. And again, put my biases aside. I'm just looking at the film for what it is. 3 out of 5, Fatal Affair. Let me know what you all thought of this movie when you get a chance to see it. For those that have seen it, If you're going to talk about spoilers, which I'm fine doing, put spoilers, go all the way down, and let's have some conversations about that third act, about, David's ex-wife, all that stuff. Let's have some fun conversations in the comments below. As always, like, share, comment, subscribe. Keep an eye out for my review for Doom Patrol, my recap of the latest episode. Have a watch along for the 10-year anniversary for Inception. And of course, on Sundays, I have my Perry Mason review and recap. So keep an eye out for all that content. Hope you all are staying safe, and we'll see you in the next video.